The key to a successful gold dredge is efficiency. It's been pretty rough this year. 3,000 ounces. We can't keep going like this because I'll never make it. We got to get the hopper down there. We got to get the screen decks, the sluice boxes. What'd you buy?
The secret to a gold dredge that actually pays is simple: efficiency. And this season, it's been brutal. 3,000 ounces so far, and at this rate, I'm not going to survive the year. We need that hopper in the water. We need the screen decks. We need the sluices. No more delays. So, what did you buy? You'll see. Let's go pick it up. Shawn Pomrenke's rebuilt $800,000 dredge didn't just scrape the seabed on its first run. It punched straight into the legendary gold-rich clay layer that everyone else failed to reach. The Myrtle Irene, which used to be nothing more than a corroded hulk tied to a dock, now tore across the seafloor like a battle-ready beast, ripping up heavy pay dirt no other machine could even sniff. And when it finally hit the mother lode, Dave practically fell backward at what was sitting in the sluice. This wasn't a small upgrade. Shawn didn't tiptoe into this season. He went all in. Almost every dollar he could borrow, trade, or gamble went into one gigantic swing at destiny. Month after month, with breakdowns, bad deals, and nonstop headaches, he pushed forward until the monster dredge finally rolled back into the water. The Myrtle. Irene wasn't just restored, it was reborn. Stronger, heavier, meaner. And on its first night shift, it had one job: work or ruin him for good. The price tag was insane. Nearly $800,000 just to get the machine back to fighting condition, on top of the debts he already had. The Tomcod lease alone needed close to $1 million more. And don't forget the $1.5 million handshake deal with his dad to take over the entire family operation. 5 sheets of paper. A lifetime of pressure, but the upgrades, game-changing. Shawn dropped the wash plant so the excavator could reach faster. He added a second sluice to lock in every speck of fine gold. Every hose, every weld, every bolt had been tightened, tested, or replaced. From the pumps to the bucket line, the whole dredge was redesigned with one goal: suck up every ounce of gold hiding under that ocean. On night 1, they steamed toward one of Shawn's old hotspots, a place other crews had teased but never truly dug into. The Myrtle could dive deeper than 30 feet, and that meant tapping into untouched ground, the kind of ground that could flip a losing season into a miracle. They anchored, lined up the gear, and fired the pumps. Engines roared, water thundered through the pipes. The crew held their breath while Shawn stayed laser-focused, no celebrating, no distractions. The first bucket came up loaded with chunky cobble, the good kind, the kind that tells you you're close to something bigger. Minutes turned into hours. The dredge kept digging. The night air was freezing, but the Myrtle was running hot. Then it happened. Thick, heavy, beautiful clay began sliding into the buckets, the exact layer Shawn had dreamed about for years. The Myrtle tore through it like a machine-possessed. Gold started showing up almost immediately. Both sluices ran clean, steady, confident. The sound of the mats, the flow of the water, any miner could read the signs. This was real pay. And here's the crazy part. This was the Myrtle Irene's first time ever working the ocean. Usually, brand new builds fall apart instantly. Hose blowouts, leaking pumps, overheating engines, but not this monster. It held steady. No clogs, no breakdowns, no drama. Shawn practically paced a hole into the deck. He checked every connection, every pressure gauge, every chute. He'd spent months obsessing over this build, drawing sketches on napkins, calling in favors, fixing problems at 3 a.m. Every inch of this dredge had been touched by his hands mid-shift. Dave peered into the top sluice, light flow, clean mats, good spread of gravel. Then he froze, gold, not a fluke, not wishful thinking, real color sitting right there in the middle of the tray. Enough to get any miner's heart pounding. The crew kept digging. One clean cut, no breakdowns, no delays, no wasted time. When it was done, they shifted the dredge forward and dropped right back in. Smooth, controlled, powerful. Shawn couldn't sit still. He watched every part of that dredge like it was a living thing, and it performed flawlessly. For hours, the Myrtle chewed its way through the seafloor without a single hiccup. By the time the first light of morning crept over the water, the dredge was still going, still hauling pay, still catching gold, still running like it was built for this moment. Dave, who had been skeptical from the start, looked ready to declare the sluice box a national treasure. He'd seen a lot of first nights. None like this. That first cut told them everything. The sluices were trapping every particle. The mats were loaded just enough to prove the setup worked if this was what the top layer held. Imagine what was waiting below. The Myrtle. Irene had proven itself. One shift, one deep cut. 0 failures. Every late-night weld, every storm-soaked repair, every dollar of debt. All of it had led to this. One moment, and now, pull the spuds, shift position, drop back in, keep digging. Because none of this was luck. It was grind. It was sacrifice. It was the kind of work no one sees. Welding at 2 a.m., wrenching in the cold, drawing blueprints on shipping crates. And for the first time all season, all that work finally paid off. Shawn had turned the Myrtle Irene into a real weapon. Tough, fast, and finally built for battle. And on its very first run, it delivered. First dig, first cut, first night. The dredge held strong. The crew saw it with their own eyes. The design wasn't theory anymore. It worked. The dream wasn't just scribbles in a notebook. It was pulling gold out of the sea, and they weren't slowing down. Under a black sky hammered by wind and waves, the Myrtle kicked off what could become the defining moment of the season. Shawn Pomrenke stood on deck as ocean spray blasted across the rails, and buckets came up loaded. One night in, and the rebuilt beast was already doing exactly what it was born to do: dig deep, catch gold, and go again. But one successful night isn't enough to calm the storm ahead. Because Shawn's biggest gamble is still waiting. No loans, no backup plan, no second chances, just gold. 2 miles off the coast, the stakes are skyrocketing, and Shawn isn't wading into the season. He's already waist-deep in the chaos. While everyone else laid low during the winter freeze, Shawn made a massive move. He grabbed a 1,000-acre gold claim called Tom Cod, and the price was brutal. Over $1.5 million. Deals like that don't come with mercy. A payment deadline is roaring toward him, and if he misses it, that ground snaps right back to the previous owner. To keep the claim, Shawn needs a 3-part push. First, run the Christine Rose non-stop, sunrise to midnight and beyond. The gold market is red hot, and every load of pay dirt counts. Tom Cod isn't just huge, it's proven. All winter long, drill samples came in, one after another, pointing to a buried ancient river channel packed with coarse, heavy gold. One drill hit over 900 grams. Numbers like that don't just get attention, they shift entire seasons. If that channel tracks the way the logs suggest, Tom Cod could be one of the richest pieces of ground in the region. But there's a problem. The Christine Rose can only reach down 19 feet. The old riverbed sits around 30. The only hope is finding a natural rise, a spot where the riverbed lifts just enough to land within reach. Shawn used beach markers, old maps, and the drill logs to trace a path. If he guessed right, the nozzle will hit untouched pay that's been buried for centuries. If he guessed wrong, time, fuel, and thousands of dollars go straight down the drain. Second, take full ownership of the inland mine. The family operation has been running for years, but Shawn wants it entirely under his control. Complete ownership means steady gold, maybe not dramatic, but reliable. And right now, reliability might be the only lifeline he has. Third, the boldest move of them all. try to get his hands on the Myrtle Irene sitting idle near town, owned by Dave Young. For months, Shawn's been eyeing that dredge, thinking about what it could do with the right upgrades. The vision is huge. Take over the Myrtle, rebuild it properly, and unleash it on untouched ground. With the right setup, the Myrtle could out-earn the Christine Rose 3-1. While the Christine might haul in $300,000 worth of gold on a strong week, the Myrtle, running full power, could push close to $1 million. That's the difference between a desperate season and a record-breaking one. But he needs Dave's blessing. Dave didn't shut the idea down, but he didn't sign on either. He asked for a detailed plan, and that sliver of an opening is enough for Shawn to shove an entire dream through. But nothing about this season is free. Tom Codd's payment is coming fast. The inland mine deal is looming, and the Myrtle isn't even his yet. Every piece is connected. One failure could knock the whole plan over. That's why every shift matters. Every scoop, every gallon of water, every ton of gravel. Back on Tom Codd, the winter logs show the old river slicing right through the claim. Shawn traced the shallowest edge, where the riverbed rises before dropping into deeper ground. If he can hit that sweet spot, he'll land right on top of the heavy gold. The 900-gram drill hole wasn't luck. Other samples were strong too. Coarse pieces, real chunks, classic ancient riverbed gold, the kind every miner dreams about. Meanwhile, the Christine Rose is grinding hard offshore. The crew knows the pressure, machines run long hours. Maintenance is tight, no breakdowns allowed. Every load through the sluice is potential rent money for the Tom Codd gamble. The inland mine keeps its steady rhythm, trucks rolling, wash plants humming, no flash, just volume. When paired with offshore production, it builds a safety cushion. But if one part slips, the weight shifts to the other. And the Myrtle? Still sitting, still waiting. But the proposal is coming together. Schematics, modifications, parts lists. If Dave accepts, everything changes. With the Myrtle running, the entire operation jumps in scale. Bigger cuts, deeper reaches, more recovery, less waste. But before any of that happens, the bills come first, miss the Tom Codd payment, and that massive stretch of gold-rich land vanishes. The inland purchase still needs cash too, and the Myrtle is nothing more than a possibility. So Shawn pushes everything toward one last play. 3 weeks. That was the deadline. Turn rust and broken welds into a working gold machine. The Myrtle Irene looked like scrap, rotted, warped, barely holding shape. Most folks wrote it off as junk, but Shawn isn't most folks. He threw more than $350,000 of his own money into bringing it back. No loans, no partners, just guts. While the Myrtle sat in pieces, the Christine Rose stayed busy. Buckets in, buckets out, gold steady. His second-in-command kept the operation running like a tight machine, but Shawn didn't want to dominate with one dredge. He wanted to own the entire shoreline. The old Myrtle was a disaster. The wash plant sat too high. The operator couldn't see what they were doing. The water flow was sloppy. Fine gold washed right off the mats and back into the sea. It was bleeding profit. A real fix meant tearing it down to bare steel and starting over. They dropped the wash plant so the operator could see the drop zone. Upgraded the pump for real power, and the biggest upgrade, adding a second sluice. Now even the fine gold had nowhere to escape. Every angle, every flow rate, every riffle had to be perfect. One mistake, and half the gold would still blow out the back. The boatyard was a battlefield, but the crew moved fast. 3 weeks wasn't a suggestion. It was a hard deadline, miss it, and the season was dead before it started. Shawn brought Dave down to see the new build. No big speech, just the facts. The excavator now lined up perfectly with the wash plant dirt dropped clean. Water blasted through. The flow path made sense. For the first time ever, the Myrtle looked like it could actually work. In the past, that dredge lost 50 to 60% of its gold. But with the new system, stronger pump, lower plant, dual sluices, the mats finally showed color, real color. But Shawn wasn't trying to build something good enough. He wanted a dredge that could surpass the Christine Rose. And while that was a tall order, he had one advantage. He built the Christine himself. He knew exactly how to beat it. The Myrtle's bucket alone was a monster, 5 times the size of the Christine's. 1 scoop of Myrtle dirt equaled 5 scoops on the Christine more dirt, more gold, less time wasted. The mission was simple: hit the heavy sand, dig deep, and pile up gold like never before. The pressure wasn't just hanging in the air, it was crushing. Every hour burned away like fuel in an engine running too hot. If the Myrtle didn't hit the water soon, the entire operation would start bleeding money fast, and the captain felt that weight harder than anyone. This wasn't loan money, wasn't investor cash. Every bolt, hose, and weld was paid for straight out of his own pocket. If the dredge failed, the loss would hit him square in the chest. But the boatyard never slowed. Sparks flew day and night. Welders carved steel until their gloves burned. Mechanics ripped out old hoses, replaced dead pumps, rebuilt frames, rewired systems. Bit by bit, the Myrtle Irene stopped looking like a washed-up relic and started to resemble something dangerous. Sharp lines, clean welds, powerful angles. It wasn't a joke anymore. It was becoming a contender. The heart of the machine was the flow system. Everything depended on it, working perfectly. Seabed material fell into the hopper, hit a wall of roaring water, and broke apart instantly. Lighter sand got washed out the backside, but the dense gold sank. The first sluice grabbed the bigger pieces, the chunks with weight. The second sluice, longer, tighter, more precise, was designed to catch the fine gold that used to slip through and disappear forever. Every tray, every mat, every riffle had a specific reason to exist. Nothing was extra. Nothing was decoration. Everything either kept gold or wasted it. And the numbers? They were everything. Gold recovery isn't guesswork. It's physics. The water pressure has to be perfect. Too fast, and the gold blows right out the back. Too slow, and the mats clog up. The angle of the sluice needed to be dialed to fractions. The length mattered. The spread mattered. How much dirt came in per scoop mattered. On the Christine Rose, the captain already had the formula down to instinct. He knew how many yards came up with each bucket, adjusted water flow on the fly, and read the sluice box like a book. That dredge was the gold standard, literally. Now, the challenge was transferring all that. Precision to the Myrtle, but on a far larger scale. Bigger bucket, wider sluices, stronger pumps. Everything had to scale up without losing finesse. When the rebuild came together, the proof was undeniable. The mats caught gold, real gold, not a few accidental flakes, but consistent color across the trays. Before the overhaul, cleanups were depressing. Bare mats, wasted effort, hopes slipping through steel grates. Now, the gold stayed where it was supposed to. It sparkled. It showed the partner exactly what mattered. Not promises, not plans, but evidence. Proof of life. Piece by piece, the Myrtle evolved into a real machine. The frame locked tight. Pumps mounted solid. Water lines cleaned and rerouted. Angles checked again and again. The entire boat suddenly looked like it could stand toe-to-toe with the biggest dredges on the Bering Sea. A boat that used to get laughed at now looked hungry. And that bucket, it was a monster. Nearly 5 times the size of the Christine Rose's each scoop hauled in more seabed than the Christine could move in several passes. That meant more pay dirt, more volume, and more chances to hit those thick layers of gold-rich sand. No more skimming across the bay. No more settling for shallow cuts. The Myrtle could dig where others couldn't even reach. The captain didn't cut corners. Not ever. He'd built big before. He'd broken records before. The Christine Rose was a legend because he made it one. Now he was aiming to build something even bigger, something that could change the entire season in one night. But that raised a question hanging over the whole project. Was the Myrtle Irene a genius move or an oversized mistake? Would this rebuilt giant rewrite the season or drain time, money, and sanity? That's the gamble. The boatyard buzzed like a storm as the deadline crept closer. Everyone knew what was at stake. Every delay meant money burning. The Myrtle had to launch. Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. And the captain pushed as hard as the crew. He wasn't barking orders from the sidelines. He was under the deck plates, tightening bolts, checking hoses, measuring angles, cleaning mats. Hands on, sleeves rolled, sweat dripping into the bilge. If the boat was going to succeed, he would make sure it had every chance. Night after night, the team transformed steel and hope into something real. They ripped out dying valves, replaced weak welds, rebuilt the grizzly bars atop the hopper. They upgraded the hydraulic lines, rerouted water flow for maximum spread, and fine-tuned the entire sluice system. Even the excavator mounts were reinforced, because with a bucket that size, every ounce of force mattered. Once the new systems clicked, the Myrtle finally started looking like a dredge that deserved respect. And with every tweak, every improvement, every spark of a welder's torch, the captain could almost see the gold waiting at the bottom of the bay. But reliability matters just as much as power. A dredge that breaks is a dredge that fails. The Myrtle had to last, hours at a time, then days, then weeks. No shutting down, no overheating, no clogged pumps. Everything had to be rugged, proven, and battle-ready. And that's when the question grew louder. Could the Myrtle actually outperform the Christine Rose? It seemed impossible. The Christine had years of polished efficiency behind it. It was the captain's masterpiece. But then again, so was the Myrtle. Only bigger, stronger, more ambitious. If it worked, the Myrtle could dominate. It could reach deeper, scoop wider, and move more material than almost any dredge in the region. And once it hit a rich patch, it could clear it faster than anyone else. But if it failed, every dollar the captain put in would sink with it. That's the razor's edge of real mining, not the polished TV version, but the true grind. Welding through frost, adjusting pumps at midnight, guessing water flow by ear, gambling everything on a machine that might not survive its first storm. So the question stands, and now it's yours to answer. Is the Myrtle Irene a masterpiece or a massive misstep? Drop your thoughts below, hit the like button if you're into the real side of dredge life, and subscribe if you want more raw, unfiltered stories from the mining world, where every cut, every weld, and every ounce of gold can change everything.